Hello, my name is Ted Bauer, and I'm Director of Workforce Development Strategies at Mass MEP. I'm here to talk briefly about workforce development in general, and more specifically, some of the challenges that we face in the workforce in manufacturing today. We truly do have a skills shortage that every employer who's looking to hire is facing. And the skills shortage brings with it a number of challenges. And also, the skills shortage and addressing it is a competitive issue to most employers. The employers think traditionally of competition as price, quality, time to market, and those traditional measures. But we are truly competing with one another for talent today. And the employer that can address this more accurately and in a better way certainly can develop a competitive advantage in the marketplace, and it's very important. We have a number of things that we would like to recommend along this path, and one of them is to really think about a strategic workforce development plan. We have strategic plans for a lot of aspects of our businesses, and in many cases, unfortunately, we do not seem to really look at workforce as having a strategic need. And I think we're at that point where we do need to develop a strategy in order to manage the workforce challenges that we're facing. And when I refer to workforce, I'm talking about two different levels here. We're talking about new hires that are coming into our businesses that have maybe little or no experience in either manufacturing or in the type of manufacturing that we do in our companies. And then we're talking about the incumbent workers, people who may have been with the company for a number of years, whose skills may need upgrading. Manufacturing has gone a long way over the past number of years in increasing technology. So even some of your most competent people on your shop floor today do need skills upgrades to keep up with the technological pace that we're introducing. There are ways to deal with this, and when you think of it strategically, you have tools. Those tools create some outcomes, and then you have some documentation that is part of wrapping up a strategic approach to this. You have elements. The first step you might take is to do a critical skills assessment. It would be a little different for new hires just coming on board, and it might be a little bit different for incumbent workers. And there are a number of tools that can be used to assess the current skills of a person in your company, and that will lead to the next assessment that takes place, and what are the training needs that individual has in order to get to the level that you have in mind for them in terms of their place in the company. The other part of it is once you assess the skills, now you have to do some training. And typically that's done on the job. We call it OJT, on the job training. And now we have a means of assessing the progress, the skills progression that each individual is gaining from the training that they're being offered. And so that's an element of that. And then ultimately, we need to credential, we might need to cross-train and keep track of where every individual is. And certificates and things like that become very important, not only in terms of validating what they may have learned, but also for that individual. So they get some type of a receipt that they've accomplished something, that they're at a level that they're expected to be at. And it goes a long way to having a cohesive workforce at the end of the day. Documented training is very important. And the repeatability of training is extremely important. In other words, we know how in manufacturing to have repeatability in production to make sure one part is similar to the next part coming through the system. We need to try to do the same thing with skills, because the skills are very specific to the tasks that we're asking people to take. And if we do not have consistency in bringing people to a certain skill level, that's really an example of being or lacking productivity. We're not going to be as productive, and we will not have the same outcomes. So consistency in training, and again, that brings you back to being able to certify, to assess and certify the competency that you're training towards. And it's a full circle as we think about it. So you train, you assess, you train, and then you look at certifying the competencies that we're training to. The pathway in any organization has to be very clear as well to the employees. They should know where they could be headed in terms of their career pathway in the company, and then they'll be able to really understand what it will take them to achieve certain levels within that company that they might aspire to. And that gives them focus. That also drives the training plan. That also gives the employer a better idea of the kind of training and for whom they're going to be needing this training for. And again, you go back through that whole loop. You assess, you continue to assess at each step, you train to the next level, and then you certify the competencies that we're training to. Ultimately, what this is all about, workforce development, a strategic approach, and at the end of the day, it's growth, profitability, and survival.